As of August 2024, the global geopolitical landscape is dominated by several ongoing conflicts, each of which has its own set of complexities and far-reaching implications. Ukraine conflict. The conflict between Ukraine and Russia has escalated into a protracted and brutal war, with neither side showing signs of relenting. The conflict began in 2014 with Russia's annexation of Crimea, but it intensified significantly in 2022 when Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Despite international sanctions and diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation, the war has become a grinding battle of attrition. The use of advanced weaponry, including drones and long-range missiles, has led to widespread destruction in Ukraine, particularly in urban areas. The conflict has also severely disrupted global energy markets, especially in Europe, where reliance on Russian gas has forced countries to seek alternative energy sources. The humanitarian crisis in Ukraine is dire, with millions displaced and countless lives lost. The conflict has also deepened the divide between NATO and Russia, with NATO providing significant military and financial support to Ukraine while Russia seeks to assert its influence in the region. Sudan conflict. Sudan is currently embroiled in a violent internal conflict that has devastated the country. The conflict, which began in April 2023, stems from a power struggle between the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, and the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF. This power struggle has led to widespread violence, particularly in the capital, Khartoum, and the Darfur region. The fighting has displaced millions of people, many of whom have fled to neighboring countries, exacerbating the refugee crisis in the region. Humanitarian conditions in Sudan are catastrophic, with severe shortages of food, water, and medical supplies. The international community has made several attempts to mediate a ceasefire, but these efforts have largely failed. The conflict continues to destabilize the region, with fears that it could spill over into neighboring countries, further complicating an already volatile situation. Myanmar conflict. Myanmar remains in turmoil as the conflict between the military junta and various ethnic armed groups intensifies. The military coup in February 2021, which overthrew the democratically elected government, has led to widespread resistance from the population. The National Unity Government, NUG, formed by ousted lawmakers and supported by several ethnic armed organizations, has been at the forefront of the resistance. The conflict has escalated into a full-blown civil war, with the junta using heavy artillery and airstrikes against resistance forces and civilian areas. The humanitarian situation in Myanmar is dire, with widespread displacement, food insecurity, and a severe lack of medical care. The international community has imposed sanctions on the junta, but these measures have done little to change the situation on the ground. The conflict shows no signs of abating, with both sides entrenched in their positions. Yemen conflict. Yemen's conflict, which began in 2014, continues to be one of the world's most severe humanitarian crises. The war, primarily between the Houthi rebels and the internationally recognized government backed by a Saudi-led coalition, has devastated the country. Despite efforts by the United Nations to broker a ceasefire, fighting continues, particularly around key strategic areas such as the port city of Hodeidah and the Marib region. The conflict has led to widespread famine, with millions of Yemenis facing acute food insecurity. The health system in Yemen has collapsed, with outbreaks of cholera and other diseases compounding the misery of the population. The involvement of regional powers, including Iran, which supports the Houthis, has further complicated peace efforts. The situation remains highly volatile, with the potential for further escalation. Sahel region conflict. The Sahel region of Africa is experiencing a surge in violence and instability, driven by the rise of jihadist groups and the withdrawal of international forces. Countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have seen the rise of military juntas, which have struggled to contain the growing influence of extremist groups. The withdrawal of French forces from the region, coupled with the increasing presence of Russian mercenaries, has left a power vacuum that jihadist groups have exploited. The violence has resulted in the displacement of millions of people, with entire communities forced to flee their homes. The humanitarian crisis is severe, with food insecurity and lack of access to basic services plaguing the region. Efforts by the international community to stabilize the region have so far been insufficient, with the conflict showing no signs of resolution. Israel-Palestine conflict. The Israel-Palestine conflict remains one of the most intractable conflicts in the world. Tensions have been particularly high in recent months, with increased violence in both Gaza and the West Bank. In Gaza, clashes between Palestinian armed groups, including Hamas, and Israeli forces have resulted in significant casualties and destruction. In the West Bank, violence between Israeli settlers and Palestinians has also intensified, with frequent clashes and retaliatory attacks. Efforts to restart peace negotiations have stalled, with both sides deeply entrenched in their positions. The prospects for a two-state solution, long seen as the best path to peace, appear increasingly remote. The humanitarian situation in the Palestinian territories is dire, with widespread poverty, food insecurity, and lack of access to basic services. The conflict continues to have a profound impact on the lives of millions of people and remains a major source of instability in the region. Haiti Conflict. Haiti is in the midst of a severe security crisis, driven by escalating gang violence and political instability. The country has been without a functioning government since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in July 2021, and the political deadlock has only worsened. Gangs now control large parts of the capital, Port-au-Prince, and other areas, with frequent kidnappings, murders, and other violent crimes. The lack of a central authority has led to widespread lawlessness, with the population living in constant fear. The situation is further compounded by natural disasters, economic collapse, and the lack of basic services. The international community has called for intervention, but so far, there has been little progress in restoring order. The humanitarian crisis in Haiti is severe, with widespread hunger, lack of clean water, and a collapsing health system. Mexico conflict. Mexico is facing extreme levels of violence, largely driven by the activities of powerful criminal organizations. The upcoming general elections in 2024 are likely to exacerbate the situation, with armed groups targeting politicians, journalists, and other public figures. The government's attempts to combat the cartels have been largely ineffective, leading to widespread fear and insecurity among the population. The violence has also had a significant impact on Mexico's economy, with tourism and foreign investment declining. The situation is further complicated by corruption within the government and security forces, which has hindered efforts to address the violence. The conflict has also spilled over into neighboring countries, particularly in Central America, where criminal organizations have expanded their operations. The international community is increasingly concerned about the situation, but finding a solution remains elusive. These conflicts reflect the complex and volatile nature of the global security environment in August 2024. Each conflict presents unique challenges, and the international community continues to grapple with finding effective solutions to these deeply entrenched and often interconnected issues.
Well, thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to hit the like button.